Hello, welcome to the GenXplainers podcast. I'm here with the panel. There's Mike, there's Al. Say hi.
Hello.
And today I am bringing a song to the table, and this is a song I think is going to be a bit of a tough row to hoe, possibly, but we'll see. It is the song Cars by Gary Numan. This song came out in 1979, and Gary Numan is sort of a pioneer of the middle, one of the pioneers, I think, of mainstreaming electronic music. He didn't start out as an electronic musician per se, but he did have a band called Tubeway Army that did use a lot of synthesizers and stuff. And actually, I love a lot of the Tubeway Army songs as well. And this is from his album Pleasure Principle. And it was a pretty big hit at the time. It got played a lot. And, it was the late 70s, early 80s, where when anything went, you saw all kinds of interesting stuff going on. And this was one of those things. He had a video on MTV when MTV started. About the song, it is, I'll give a little bit of trivia about it. He wrote it with the idea of a pop hit, a pop-oriented song in mind. Because before this, his songs were a little more abstract, let's say, or they were at least they weren't upbeat necessarily. They were about like human isolation and are my friends robots, that kind of thing.
She never really answered, by the way.
No, we still don't know. And this one, actually, the subject matter of this one is actually about, let me start with this. The thing that got him to write these lyrics, he had a road rage incident where something happened, and the person he was involved with the road rage got out and was yelling at him, and he just kept his windows closed and kind of drove away over the sidewalk to avoid this human conflict. And so he said, that feeling that I had in the car, where I was safe in my car because the outside world, something crazy happened, I'm just going to drive away. That kind of theme was what the song was about. And I know certain critics have said that theme is extremely salient and true of human nature, and true now in a lot of different ways. You could parallel that. So that's like the lyrical content, and the music of it. It's interesting. It is more poppy compared to his other stuff. It does have a lot of synth in it, but really there's real drums, there's a real bass, there's a tambourine in there, and so it is sort of a mix of synthy stuff and a real band.
We started to play this track. The drummer's doing his thing and the bass line is doing his thing, and we get to the start. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're in, and I pressed the one key, that note, and then I didn't know where to go, so I just sat there with it, thinking about what to do with it for a bit, and then did the run at the end of it, and thought it actually sounded quite good, just hitting the one note and not going anywhere with it, just leaving it. Now we go somewhere with it, kind of as an afterthought.
And the thing about Gary Numan also is his vocals. I'll mention that. He has a nasally high kind of, you can hear it in the song. He's not he's such a great singer. No, it's more of it's just his approach to singing, and it fits in with the themes of his songs, alienation.
It matches the sound for
yeah,
sure.
Totally. Yeah. So so it's based on a real incident for him. He wrote it. He said, again, he was trying to do a pop song, and he wrote it in about 30 minutes. It was very quick. So as far as like how I feel about the song, I really like the song. And I remember in the day, again, anything went, and it was something I hadn't really heard before, and I was excited about it. I'm like, what is this thing? This is cool. It's not like, a 7-minute 70s rock song, that I've been hearing for 10 years or whatever. It's something new. It's something short, and it's something with interesting sounds. But I think as a song, like melodically, it's actually pretty straightforward. I mean, it's not like an experimental crazy song. It's just using different instruments to do it. So my notes on it, it has this cold, otherworldly, droning keyboard that hovers over all of it. It hovers over this strangely tuneful and fun drum and other keyboard parts. The little da 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 da. I mean, that's the poppy part right there. And yeah, again, the vocals completely match sort of what he's singing about. He's very disconnected. I can lock all my doors. It's the only way to live, And perhaps not surprisingly, it's a great driving song.
Is it?
I think it is. And especially the end. I mean, again, it starts, with your verse, chorus, and then the last minute and a half or so is sort of just layering of keyboards over the basic groove. And actually, I kind of get lost in the sauce with it and really do enjoy that part. And I love that old school Moog analog synth sound. And I don't know, that's me. That's a personal thing. And I guess that's sort of my take on the song. Again, there is a lot of personal taste involved and personal experience and history with the song that makes me really love it. But I think if you look at it as a piece of songwriting, it's a simple pop song is what it is, done in a very, very interesting way. So
it really tickles your pleasure principle.
It does, and that's the whole principle of it. Yeah, and Gary Numan was a very interesting guy. He still puts out stuff, by the way, and he's actually quite, he's a smart guy. He's an interesting guy. Go Google him, Gary Numan.
He likes to talk about himself, for sure.
Well, he does, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to try to find an excuse to be able to put other video images of him because he always has wacky outfits.
Well, you should put the cover of the single because he looks like he's like, I'm driving that car.
Right. Well, I'm going to try to find the video of him driving the little car around the stage. I think that might have been from that movie I mentioned another time, Urgh, A Music War, because he was in one of the performers, and I think that's what he had, the little triangular car, and he was driving around. I got to find it now. I have to. So that's my take. How about when you guys chime in with your thoughts on the song? I know Mike's wife's thoughts on the song. Big fan.
I think that's a natural segue to you, Mike.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Okay. Well, when I was young, I remember listening to this song, and I really liked the song at the time. I did, and so for me, it's like there's a lot about it to like. I can't say it's held up for me over the years, but I do think that creating that sound during the time that he created it was something that was really necessary for the time, to have artists like that out there doing stuff like this, because there weren't that many who were doing this, and he was one of the forefathers of that movement, I guess, is the best way to put it. At least bringing it to mainstream. It was like you still had other groups doing like Kraftwerk and stuff like that, doing stuff like this, but they hadn't really brought it to the mainstream necessarily like he did.
Yeah, this was a very big hit.
Yeah, and I think MTV helped him make it a bigger hit too.
Right, and I think a lot of these early electronic bands always kind of coupled it with this strange persona. In other words, I have to be like weird, or or we're robots, right? Which it fits in with like the kind of stuff they're into and the technology they were using. But but anyway, to the point, he really brought it through. And because of his image, the videos were popular because they were interesting and strange and eye-catching. So that really helped get it into the mainstream.
Yeah, and I think that he is one of those weird artists who thrive from the music video generation, and that helped a lot. I mean, there's certain bands and artists who MTV they would not have been what they are without MTV,
and some were destroyed, like Christopher Cross. We'll do that episode another time. Anyway,
I don't want to ever talk about the Christopher Cross.
Oh, come on. Takes me away to where I'm going.
Well, I feel like we have to now.
Yeah.
Like maybe let's stop this one.
Yeah. Oh. Sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Anyway, so I mean, I do think the song is definitely an iconic one for what it was doing. So, it doesn't necessarily hold up for me. I can't listen to it that much, other than to research it again for a podcast.
Well, that's why I do it. I'm trying to help Gary Numan get some listens. So, as far as like, is there a situation today, like, is it because it sounds dated or because it reminds you too much of the past? Is there a way you can divorce yourself and pretend this is the first time you've heard this song and it came out today? What would you what would you say? You'd probably say, well, that's a weird song.
I don't think so. Because I'm trying to think the other groups that fit in this genre that I still can do that with, like Devo, Kraftwerk, like sort of in that digital keyboard thing. But I could listen to those because they were so wacky and odd. This one sort of like, it doesn't quite push it over the edge for me to make it as quirky as those others did. And I think that even though like, he's singing about driving my car, it just doesn't really affect me the same way those others do.
Because I think you would maybe pick a Kraftwerk song as perfect. I mean, we haven't done one yet, but in my mind, there's a couple songs that I could suggest. And I think, I mean, are there songs from like a Kraftwerk, like, I don't know, The Model or something, Robots?
I probably would, The Model especially, because I think that's such a great song. But there's something about that. I mean, that was even earlier, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. No, that's the thing about Kraftwerk is they're like really the originators in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
that was the 75 or something, I think, or 6. I mean, mid 70s.
I know it was definitely earlier on. Yeah,
this was 5 years later. And again, like I said, Gary Numan started out just more traditional bands, and I guarantee you he heard Kraftwerk, like a lot of the electronic bands we loved eventually, OMD, whatever. They heard Kraftwerk and were like, oh, wait a minute, this is cool. Let's get keyboards and let's,
Yeah.
But I guess my question was like, okay, between this song, without any context of history, this song versus a Kraftwerk song, what is it there that makes Kraftwerk a little bit more perfect than this? And it might be what we just said. It might be just like the originality.
It might be the fact that this has, I don't think the lyrics in this song are necessarily great.
Well, again,
and Kraftwerk's lyrics are very sparse.
Yeah, I mean,
they're more just about the sound.
The Model. I think The Model is one verse, maybe repeated over and over.
Yeah.
She's a model and she's looking good. I'd like to take her home, that's understood.
Thing with Tour de France is like you just have Tour de France over and over again.
Yeah. And then they name French cities, I believe, in between.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, they're completely different animals to compare those two. I mean, I would probably go with something more along the lines of Devo.
Devo, extremely original, though. I think they have so much more going on. Again,
Right.
this song is a very simple pop song, simple song
Yeah.
structure. At the end, it has the extended lead out that I really do love, the instrumental layering. But this is very simple. And to me, that was part of why I think maybe it could be considered perfect because of the mass appeal.
Right.
Even if it's a little cheesy.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're talking about like the digital keyboardist early on, those forefathers. I mean, I might even look at Thomas Dolby.
He was probably in the same boat as Gary Numan around the same time.
Yeah, Thomas Dolby, I think that just had a much more effective songwriting style that became this like other things. Like he had all these different sounds, and Gary Numan for me just sort of like
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, Dolby was a little later, and also Thomas Dolby writes very personal and emotional songs.
Yeah.
Gary Numan ain't about that at all.
No.
It's about I'm an android and I'm looking around at things and saying,
Look,
I'm
I'm an android.
an.
What do you expect?
What do you want from?
He was the original CAPTCHA.
Yeah.
Literally, what Capture was created to capture was Gary Numan.
All right.
He hasn't been able to get his email password for years because of this.
Please select the boxes with the robot. All of them. So how about you, Al?
Well, a lot has been said now.
It's true. A lot has been said.
I will say this though. For me, one of the fundamental differences between this song and maybe Gary Numan in general, compared to like Thomas Dolby or Kraftwerk or whomever, is what Matt said. Like this, he tried to write a pop song. Like this is a clear, simple pop song. We can talk about like the instrumentation and how it was executed. And I do agree with Matt. Like the end is just kind of otherworldly. But Thomas Dolby, and I think I'm right. I could be wrong, but I think he also comes from a jazz background. And like
He does, yeah.
Very
so,
much so.
I mean, it makes sense that his music is so much more different pieces being thrown in, and there's just more going on there as opposed to this very straightforward pop song. And I would say, like with Devo is a punk band, so of course their stuff is more interesting. So I think those are the main differentiators. As to whether this is perfect or my reaction to it, I love the music. It is very simple, but it's also, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the analog synthesizers. There's something so pristine and like icy about it that now I'm sure you could duplicate this sound with a modern digital instruments. I'm sure that's probably easy to do with the push of a button, but there was more limitations back then, and what they did with those limitations are impressive to me. So musically, I do think this is a great song. Is it perfect? I don't know. I mean, I guess we don't have to vote right now, but
No.
But yeah, there is that kind of. I do like the way the vocals work with the song and the robotic kind of. I can live in my car. This is a way to be. So I think this is a really good song. My kids like it. I don't know if it got put on a playlist. I think it was more like, this is a song I wouldn't turn off if it came on, but they do like it. And I do too. And I do think, it is kind of a perfect time capsule of that sort of late 70s. As you said, anything goes. Like you had Laurie Anderson was like had a hit, and Gary Numan had a hit, and you have punk. I know punk didn't actually become a real thing until the 90s, but it started in the 70s. Just like hip hop didn't become a real thing until the 90s, but it started in the 70s. So it really was a very fertile time, and it created a lot of interesting little unique flowers. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I do like this song. It's just one of those things where I can't necessarily put it as like timeless. However, I will say that I don't know if there's any other song that is just so quickly identifiable from that period. like immediately you know what it is.
Yeah, the very first thing is just that wavering.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's do a thought experiment, guys. Okay, this is 1979. Here's the song. Gary Numan's in the studio recording it, and along walks by the 1979 era Robert Smith, who's recording in the next booth. He's doing 17 seconds, I believe, of that period, let's say. Maybe Faith. And he goes, oh, well, that sounds like an interesting song. That's Robert Smith. So he goes, gets the lads together and records a half-speed version of this in the Robert Smith style. Is it perfect now?
Wow.
Use your imagination.
Probably not, but...
Oh, I think it'd be great. It's fun for me to think about.
And apparently you have a lot.
No, I just came up with it just now.
Okay.
I'm quick. Okay. Anyway, I think it'd be interesting. He could still do it. He could do it. Come on.
Yeah, it would just take 7 years to write that song.
It's already written, Robert. Oh, well,
we're
we're remixing it. It's been 3 years.
We hope you're enjoying this GenXplainers podcast. Please remember to find us and follow us on social media. And we'd much appreciate a 5-star rating on the podcast platform of your choice. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right. Well, I guess as we're ready to vote, I think I know where things are going, but that's okay. I'm going to start. Obviously, I brought it. I understand it's a trifle of a song, kind of, but I think part of its simplicity and its representation of a period of time in music that's a sort of, anything can go. Why not do this song that's kind of weird? And he has who's this guy with the weird voice? It's the guy that's singing the song, man. Just relax. I do think it's perfect. I'm going to give it the perfect, so that's my vote.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off.
Do it.
I don't think it's perfect, but again, I do not dislike the song. It's just I do not think it fits the perfect mold. So anyway, there you go.
Okay. How about you, Al? What do you think?
I go back and forth.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one because you say that one of your criteria is it timeless, and this is not timeless. But I also think that something can be a perfect distillation of a time. And this, I think, and there's a weird fine line between something being a perfect distillation of a time and then something sounding dated. Because something that sounds dated is not going to be a perfect song. And whether or not this comes down, I don't know what the criteria for whether something sounds dated to me or not. This sounds more like a distillation of this is what it was like to create electronic music in the late 70s. And it is, I think, in many ways, a perfect execution of that for a pop song. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is but I am going to err on the side of not perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. I understand. I knew when I brought this one in, it would be a tough one. And again, for the reasons we talked about, for the reasons you mentioned, I completely understand the voting. I do think there's a big element of my personal experience with the song. And how excited I was by it at the time. And a lot of other songs that were just so new to me, the Devo thing, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, when I think of it in context of like, okay, it comes down to those things we often talk about in the podcast. Like, okay, what is criteria? What is the criteria for perfect? I mean, and what does dated mean? And what does, like you said, distillation, or, because you know what? No one's doing Kraftwerk songs, right? But I think those songs are held a little higher than a song like this. And now maybe that's because this is a pop song. Clearly, he had a little idea with lyrics, but he wrote a song to be catchy. And sometimes catchiness can be detrimental, but sometimes I think it can be appealing, a little more mass appeal that I think can contribute to perfection. But that's, again, we've already said all this. The votes are in. I hope everyone goes and just listens to it all the way through, especially that end part. Really gets you soaring. And maybe while you're driving through the forest, maybe it'll change your life. No.
Or maybe
anyway,
as you're driving through a glacial landscape of ice.
Or if you have,
be perfect for.
Yeah, or if you have a little triangular car, drive it around a little bit, just sort of back and forth.
Please do. And come by my place.
Yeah, because I love that kind of stuff.
I'll also say, you know what? You ask me on a different day, I might have a different answer.
Yeah.
I'm so close on this.
It is a go back and forth kind of song, I think.
I'll tell you, if you ask me on a different day, I probably would have the same response.
Get Leanna on the microphone. I need to talk to her.
Yeah. I feel like she's been, tampering with the jury here.
There are actual threats. If you say that's perfect, on the couch. Anyway, thank you for listening, and thank you both again, panel. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.
Bye.